I've always invested a huge amount into learning, and that process then scales, so that's what I did right at the beginning. That's what I did at 6 figures in revenue, 7 figures in revenue, just continuing to learn the next thing and finding the people who can help you do that, who are helping me continue to scale the business.
All right, guys, welcome back to the podcast. I got a very, very special guest today, Olly from storylearning.com. He has a insane course platform, one of the craziest course and kind of info learning products I've ever seen and ever heard of. So I'm really, really keen to jump into exactly how he launched it, what he's doing right now. I know this is going to be an awesome episode. So Olly, welcome to the podcast, man. Great to have you here.
Thanks very much. Looking forward to chatting.
Me too, man. Me too. So I guess maybe let's step back and give people a little bit of background on yourself and story learning, what the journey's been like the last few years to get here and, what you're doing right now with the business.
Sure. Yeah. So story learning, we teach foreign languages to English speakers. So people like us, you use story learning to learn pretty much, well, we do 15 languages now, everything from like French to Spanish to Japanese, Chinese, etc. And what makes story learning unique is that we teach languages through stories. So it's quite different to your kind of Duolingo and the other stuff that everyone knows already. And so, but it's 10 years old already. I started story learning 10 years ago, and I've kind of had a series of 7-year careers. Really, I started my career as a jazz musician. That's what I did from university onwards. And then fell out of love with that, became an English teacher, went to live in Japan and the Middle East teaching English. And then whilst at the tail end of that, I started blogging about languages, which is what then became story learning, which I did for like I say, it's 10 years now. But then a year ago, I kind of realized that I built up all this knowledge around online business and especially kind of scaling online businesses. I had so many people coming and talking to me, asking me like, what should I do here? And how do you do this? And so I started writing a newsletter about the art of online business, which is at ollyrichards.co. And that's kind of what I do now, because I don't work that much inside story learning. I'm mostly out of the business. And so I spend a lot of my time now kind of doing podcasts like this, writing newsletters, making videos, helping other people grow their online businesses. It's kind of a cliche, really, successful course learner starts teaching online business. I think for a long time, I was very aware of that cliche, so I didn't really want to do it.
Yeah.
But at the same time, people kept telling me, man, you have like so much stuff to offer, you really should. And then I kind of eventually realized, well, just because a lot of people do it very cringe, that doesn't mean I can't do it and do it in a better way. So here's me trying to do that.
Love it. So I'm super curious. I want to go into the recent kind of coaching and online business stuff that you've been doing, but stepping back, going into story learning, kind of what did that process look like for you from going to an English teacher to kind of starting story learning 10 years ago, and tell us kind of how it evolved and where it's at right now.
I mean, it was the most natural thing in the world. I think so much of the stuff that, if you pay attention to the world of social media and business, you're just inundated with tactics and strategies and stories, and it's enough to confuse anybody. But for me, it was the simplest thing in the world. Like, I'd always learned languages. That was the thing I was passionate about. And I then spent years teaching languages professionally as an English teacher. And so I was aware that I had a fairly unique combination in that I didn't just, because most English teachers, they teach English, but they can't speak any other languages, right? What was slightly different in my case was that I'd learned to speak 8 languages. So I felt like I had this, if you imagine a Venn diagram between, on one side, you've got the experience of having learnt languages to a high level, and then you overlap that with the ability to teach languages and actually talk about it from a pedagogical perspective. That was fairly unique. And I think I realized that. And I also really just had this need to do something creative and have some output of some kind. And so I just started blogging. I read a book that talked about a guy who was making a living blogging about language learning. And I thought, man, I could do that. So I did. I literally just pulled up a free WordPress blog and started blogging. And I just posted one really good blog post a week for years. And it was as simple as that. People overcomplicate stuff, but it was really, really super simple. Then, so that was the genesis of it, right? And that's further than a lot of people get, just getting started. But what I did well from there was I went out and I learned about blogging. So how does one blog? How do you get traffic? How do you build a website? How do you launch products? Just step by step, I learned that stuff, and I just kept learning. I've always invested a huge amount into learning, and that process then scales. So that's what I did right at the beginning. That's what I did at 6 figures in revenue, 7 figures in revenue, just continuing to learn the next thing and finding the people who can help you do that. And even right now, I have mentors right now who I pay a lot of money to, who are helping me continue to scale the business. So it's really just one long process, but getting started and continuing to learn are the sort of key components of that.
Totally. Yeah, love it. And you mentioned before that story learning is kind of running without you a little bit right now. So what does that team look like? What does kind of the business from a high level perspective look like? I'm really curious.
Sure. Yeah. So I work 3-4 days a month in the business in total. That's often kind of piecemeal. So half an hour here, an hour there, a meeting here. And the reason I'm able to do that is because I have a full management team in place. Well, full-ish. It's enough for what we do. And we follow if anyone's familiar with EOS, Entrepreneurial Operating System, we follow that model. So I'm in the visionary seat. It's a very pompous title, but that's what it's called in the book. Visionary. Yeah. And then below me, I have an integrator who then who oversees the management team. So we have people there who are in charge of finance, operations, and sales and marketing. And then beneath them, they have people who do stuff as well. And that's the basic structure that allows any founder to step back. It's not quick or easy to get to, and you've got to have good people in place, trusted people. But yeah, on a simple level, that's what does the trick.
Yeah, love it. I'm keen to dive in, into what that team looks like and kind of the process of outsourcing. But I'm curious, kind of right now, in terms of product suites and traffic sources. What does that look like? I guess from a behind the scenes perspective, in terms of different products that you have, different price points, different tiers, different offers, and where most of this traffic and kind of new customers are coming from.
Yeah, so I wrote a case study called Anatomy of a $10 million online education business. It's a 118-page-ish Google Doc where I go into this in exhaustive detail. So if anyone wants to kind of read the full explanation of this, then there is a lot of detail there. But the sort of TLDR of this is that, so we teach 15 languages in total. For each of these, for each language, we have each language has its own ecosystem of products. So let's just take Spanish as an example. So if you come to learn Spanish with us, you have level 1, level 2, level 3, level 4, level 5, level 6, and that goes from beginner to advanced. It's the pathway you would expect, right? You then, and I call these our core offers. That's, if you come to our website, that's what you will be offered. But then we make a lot of our money from the back end. And so that includes a number of things. That includes standalone products. So we may come in at the end of any given month and say, hey, we have this thing that will help you improve your memory, for example, so you can learn more Spanish, remember more Spanish words. Or we have this thing over here that will help you learn to understand native speakers when they're speaking quickly. So these are all standalone, single purchase products. We then have a kind of continuity. I say kind of because it's not strict continuity, but it functions in much the same way, which is where you can sign up to monthly challenges. And there are 12 months of those. So you can sign up for 12 months of continuity there. And these are all fairly low ticket. These are all of these things that I've mentioned are kind of between $100 to $300. But then prices kind of scale up quite a lot. So we have these big bundles. So if you want to get a bundle of everything that we have in one language, we have bundles priced at $1,000, $2,000. We then have a VIP option, which is where, let's say you want to learn Spanish with us, but you don't trust yourself to learn by yourself. We have a VIP option, which is coaching. So we will coach you through the whole process. So that's the products plus the coaching itself. And that also sells for, different price points, but it can be, if you sign up for a year of that, it can be up to $5,000 or $6,000 for that. And then at the very high end, we have teacher certification. So you can become certified to become a teacher, which is a $5,000 currently program. So it's got that full kind of, that full range of things, and people kind of dip in and out of those. And, one of the things I often talk about is the fact that I don't really like the term value ladder, because that value ladder is something that's become very, it's just become synonymous with any kind of online business. And it's the idea that you quickly accelerate someone to the highest level. You sell them a cheap ebook so you can then sell them a 10 grand coaching package or something. That's not really how I see it. With all of these products, what makes it work, what makes the system hold together is the fact that everything has this concept of stories at the heart, right? So I mentioned before that we teach languages through stories. Whether you take our VIP coaching or our continuity or our single product or our core offer, everything has stories as the USP. So you'll be learning languages through stories. And that makes it so that a lot of our customers will come along and take one course and then wait a while and take another. And then it almost becomes this choose your own adventure thing, whereby over the time it takes to actually learn a language, which is years to learn a language well, you've just got this ecosystem of products that you can dip in and out of. And so some people will just try one product and then maybe go straight for our VIP coaching. Other people will start with the coaching. Other people will just buy a bunch of the smaller products over time. It is what we're looking to do essentially is create this world of language learning through stories and then give people the option to dip in and out. And that's what I refer to as an ecosystem.
Totally. Yeah. I love that. As I was listening to that product suite, it's like every course creator's dream to have that multi-vertical, low ticket, high ticket thing. And
it took us 10 years. It took us 10 years to do it.
That's what I'm saying. Yeah, exactly. A lot of people kind of, come wanting to launch like 4 products straight out of the gate. And I assume, you probably started with one and then, you built a team and then 10 years later.
100%.
Yeah.
Exactly that.
And right now, I guess, what does your marketing team look like? And what does the actual acquisition side of these, of these courses look like? You've got so many different offers and languages and tiers. So I'm curious kind of how you're selling.
Yeah, so we do a lot of content marketing. So, we have a very active blog, website with, a million plus hits a month on the website. I've been putting a lot of effort into YouTube recently because although YouTube kind of doesn't really, it kind of breaks my rule of me not being at the center of things. It is a great growth vehicle and a great source of customers because, long form video is just very, very engaging and attracts the right people. So I've been putting a lot of effort into YouTube and we're at 410,000 odd subscribers. So that's been growing well. So we have a lot of organic on that side. We have a secondary YouTube channel, which is just for one language. We have a couple of podcasts. We have 25 odd books that are in all the shops. We have affiliates account for 10%-ish of our business. And then they have a fair amount of media out there. And we also do paid advertising. We spend quite a bit of money on paid traffic, influencer marketing. So it's a very diversified range of things that we do. But within that, it is 80-20, so there are, and maybe not 80-20, but it's that, there are certain traffic sources I would be not very happy if we lost all of a sudden, put it that way. But part of the reason we do so many different things is because, as you grow as a business, one of the things you have to do is to start to diversify your traffic sources. And I think what I normally advise people is that as you get up to before $1 million in revenue, you should actively not diversify at all. Stay focused on one thing so that you can get it working well and scale that up to a good level. But once you pass the 7 figures point, you really do have to start thinking about diversifying because there's a lot more to lose at that point. There's more at stake. And so we've for some time now been investing quite a lot into different traffic sources, some of which are better than others, but it's all an ongoing process. So, we're quite stable in that sense. But most of the selling happens over email. Right? So we have quite elaborate email funnels, which I can go into as much depth as you like with these. But essentially what we do is when someone enters our world through email, they will go through 2-3 months-ish of daily emails in which there is some selling happening, but it's mostly content, authority building, relationship building, proof, education, all those kind of things. And then after those automated sequences are finished, then they go into kind of what we call a ready for broadcast situation. And at that point, we assume, okay, you haven't bought from our automated emails, so you're probably going to convert over a longer period of time. So at that point, we have a cadence of sending 2 offers a month, mid-month and end of month, where we will kind of cycle through various different things that we have. And then as people buy, they get filtered out, and people who don't buy will receive more things. And then so over the course of 12 months or so, they'll be cycled through all of the various different things that we offer, along with some of the things that are more cohort based, like our coaching and our certification. But yeah, email is by far the most important actual sales channel that we have.
Totally. And when you say email, like when you're doing the YouTube and the blog and also paid ads, are you kind of driving people to an opt-in page to collect the email, or are you going straight to purchase? How are you kind of gathering all these emails to funnel into the sequence?
Yeah, it's a big mix. So certain vehicles are better than are more suited to different areas than others. So, for example, for content marketing, email is lead capture is one of the best things to do because people are already there. Well, let me put it this way: with content marketing, it's usually a volume game. You're getting a lot of people coming through, and so with the big opportunity there is to actually capture emails so that you're able to continue the relationship later. That's how you build your list. But for other forms of, especially with paid media, typically lead acquisition, lead capture funnels tend to be quite expensive. And so the most scalable way we found is through actual straight to purchase offers. So those are usually low ticket offers because that although it's more expensive to acquire a customer, at least you're then optimizing for acquiring customers rather than people who just want the free stuff, basically. So we're moving much more towards direct to purchase. And those are typically for lower ticket things, for pure cold traffic. For influencer marketing, we'll sell higher ticket stuff straight away because you have that trust already there. But I mean, eventually with paid media, everything becomes a direct response game, and you just have to know your numbers inside out and back to front, and that's how you scale it. It's tough. It's a very difficult game, and for most people, it's not going to work. Not because it can't work, but because there are so many skills that have to come together to make paid media work that it's just unrealistic for most people to get access to that kind of expertise.
Yeah, totally. And man, there's so many things I want to jump into. So with the two things, first of all, with the ads, kind of what price point are you selling these courses for with the paid ads, and what does that funnel look like? Is it you doing kind of a VSL, or is it just like kind of a long form, a direct response sales page? What does that look like?
So I'm reluctant to answer that because for two reasons. First of all, in the gap between whatever I do, whatever we say now and whenever someone listens to this, we may well be doing the complete opposite because things change all the time, right? And also what works for me isn't going to work for someone else. What I've learned from this whole process is that what gets you to success with this is a mindset of constant testing. So we're testing stuff all the time. Like we will go through, just in the last few weeks, we've sort of cycled between a lead magnet front end with a free plus shipping offer on the thank you page through to lead magnet with a $10 tripwire on the thank you page through to a direct to $10 offer with no lead capture at all. And for all of these things, we're kind of looking for signals and then optimizing the upsell process in order to get as high a average customer value as possible, average order value as possible. And that it's the mindset that matters.
Yeah.
What works well for me, for someone else in my niche might not work so well just because the product is different, the kind of people you're reaching is different, are different. I would say that in general, what we're doing is ads straight to an offer of a low ticket offer of some kind around the $7 to $17 mark. That may be on the thank you page after an opt-in. It may be direct to sale. Often has a quiz element at the beginning of it, and then multiple upsells with order bumps, two levels of upsells, two downsells. That's you're really you have to squeeze as much of the front end out of the front end as you can because you've got to try and get as close to break even as you can at the beginning. Because if you can't do that, then you can't scale your ad spend because if the profit comes later, then tracking becomes difficult, cash flow becomes an issue. So we're looking to get to as close to break even as possible through pretty typical, digital marketing methods. But then all the profits on the back end. So on the back end, then we're looking to sell higher ticket more expensive courses. So $300 courses, for example, $2,000 coaching, that kind of thing, which can take a bit longer to happen. It can take weeks or months to actually come through. But by that point, if you've paid for the customer acquisition on the front end, then everything that does come through is profit. So, all of that's pretty mainstream, really, but it's the mindset that really matters.
Yeah, totally. And also you mentioned influencer marketing as well for some of the higher ticket stuff. So I'm really, really curious about kind of what that process looks like. And again, I'm sure it's always testing, but how are you guys kind of finding success with the influencers?
So it is all about two things. It's about the audience and the offer. Same as ever, right? The audience being who is the influencer that you are working with, and the offer being what is the thing that they are offering. And it sounds so simple. What we found is that if you use the wrong influencer, the audiences won't convert. Some audiences will convert brilliantly. Others that you're convinced would be a fantastic fit just don't convert, and you just simply don't know. So you've got to get the audience. You've got to figure out which audiences convert at the front end. And then there's a big difference between offering, say, a $300 product versus a $300 product discounted to $100 versus a $10 product with upsells, all of these things. And so, when we first started influencer marketing, I kind of came into this. Actually, I remember talking to my mentor at the time, and we first got into influencer marketing kind of by accident, really. We found that there was one influencer who joined our affiliate program, made a huge number of tens of thousands of dollars in sales on one Black Friday promotion. It was a real kind of what the hell just happened sort of situation. But then that showed us that there's potential. So I hired a full-time influencer marketer, set a budget. We went out, tested a whole bunch of stuff. And after 3-4 months, we were just losing money hand over fist. And so I went to my mentor and I said, look, what's wrong with my mindset here? What am I not understanding? And he turned around and said something that was extremely valuable for me, which was that you need to treat this like R&D. So if you try to get positive results from this immediately, you're going to fail. So instead, the right mindset is to say, right, how much am I willing to invest into this over the next 12 months in order to figure out what works? And I heard that and I realized, okay, that's what I should have been thinking all along. The error is to think that you should be able to crack this from the beginning. And so many marketers are basically day traders. They're just looking for positive results right away. I flipped my mindset at that point to saying, okay, I don't need to crack this now. I need to crack this within 12 months. And here's the amount of money I'm willing to put towards making that happen. And then, sure enough, like 3-4 months later, we cracked the formula and we figured out exactly what's working for us. Right now we're at a point where we've just been working on our budget for next year, and we're looking at 3 to 4xing our spend on influencer marketing next year because we've got, real traction in that area. So what's working for me doesn't matter because it's going to be different for everyone else.
Yeah.
But the key components are audience and offer. So on the audience side, I would recommend go out and run small promotions with like 40 to 50 influencers. So you figure out which audience works. And then on the offer side, test 4 or 5 different offers. So your main product or something similar in 4 or 5 different configurations, and then figure out what's the magical combination of those two. Once you figure that out, then you can scale it. But you've got to spend upfront in order to get those lessons learned.
Yeah. And what does that process actually look like for you in terms of, are you giving these influencers affiliate links, or are you paying them for posting and they're posting on their Instagram stories or feeds and putting a link in their bio, or kind of what, I'm sure there's a lot, but kind of, yeah.
Cold hard cash, basically. So influencers are typically fairly unsophisticated with business and opportunities. So we've actually been to influencers who we have a close relationship to and saying, look, we'll do this and give you an affiliate link where you'll earn 50% of everything that you promote. And they say, no, I just want the cash. And we've said to them very genuinely, look, if you use your affiliate link, you will probably earn 5 times, maybe even 10 times as much. And we know this because we have the data, and we're doing this because we know you, we like you, we want you to succeed with this. And they're like, no, just give me the cash. So what we do typically is, for the influencers that we work with, is we agree a fixed amount, and then they will promote either Instagram, YouTube, whatever it may be. And then we will have very, very clear tracking links. So we know from them. So their audience will have to click a link in order to get the offer. Those links are tracked. So we know exactly how many sales come from those specific people. And so that's it.
That's amazing, man. Well, I'm curious to go into something, a little bit different. So let's say, you lost everything. You lost your entire email. Story learning, was no longer, and you're literally starting from scratch, where all you had is, a skill or some experience that you can teach. And that's really, I'm curious, after doing all these, kind of different marketing methods and channels, if you were starting from ground zero, or to someone listening starting from ground zero, I guess, how would you approach, not so much creating an online course, but more so the idea of kind of marketing and getting sales for an online course if you were starting from zero?
So what do I have? I have the course, but not my email list.
Yes, exactly. Yes. Let's say you have a course.
Man, that's really hard. It's really hard, honestly. I think the quick answer to your question is I wouldn't try and sell my course. So why not? Creators, meaning people with loyal audiences, have an unfair advantage in that people who follow them know, like, and trust them and will buy anything from them. That doesn't mean that the stuff that they're selling is the best. It's just what's right for you and your audience. What that means is if you take that product that you're selling to your audience and you try and sell it out in the wider marketplace, it's probably not going to work because you haven't tested it out in the wider marketplace. Most creators sell stuff that is an extension of their personalities, that is appealing to their particular audience. And that means that they have something that works really well for them, but not out in the marketplace. From a business strategy perspective, what this looks like is A, build a big audience, B, sell them stuff while continuing to build your audience. Building an audience is really hard and takes a long time. It's 3 to 5 years to build an audience with traction. And it's 10 years for it to be really substantial. 5-10 years, unless you get lucky. There's always examples of people that got lucky, but essentially building an audience is 3 to 5 years just to get in the game. And so if I'm starting from scratch with no audience, I'm not going to sell my thing because there's no one out there who knows me or likes me, and I'm not going to be able to get in front of them. So the product that I have is essentially worthless at that point. So I have two options. One, I make a new product that I design specifically to be valuable to the wider marketplace so that I can then sell it through ads or affiliates and things like that. B, I say, right, I'm going to keep my product, but I'm now going to commit the next 2 years to building an audience again, starting from scratch. I think those are your two options if you want to go down that route. If I was in that situation, I wouldn't do either of those two things. I would offer a service immediately that's based on the knowledge in my head, and I would then go out and find people to buy it through a mix of networking, social media, my entire email list, and try and get myself fully booked offering that service straight away, whether that's copywriting, funnel building, operating online businesses, whatever it is that's within my skill set. I would go and sell that stuff as a service immediately in order to get cash through the door, and then that will give me breathing space to figure out, right, okay, maybe now I've got this cash through the door, I can go and build my audience again in my free time, or else build this agency into a business if I wanted. But I don't like agencies, so I wouldn't build it. So yeah, that's how I would think about it.
I love it. That makes total sense, and that was so well articulated. So I appreciate that. I want to dive in kind of on the. Well, it does depend on the niche as well. Like if I would. Ideally, if I could sell something high ticket where there is some kind of coaching element involved and there is a program, I would, like you said, try and always go to high ticket, because if you want to live off it, selling something for kind of like $3 or $4 grand where there's more one-to-one and there's more done with you or even done for you service is a lot easier to get cash flow. And then from there, probably build my audience on the side and then eventually maybe pivot into more automated stuff once my kind of cash flow and higher ticket stuff is maxed out. So yeah. I definitely agree. And if people come to us, I do try and push them to high ticket, just because, like I said, more margins, more cash flow. There's a lot more learning one-to-one. You can probably get better results for them too, and have more cash to reinvest into coaches and kind of building out a team where, especially, if you're trying to do an automated low ticket now, depending on how low ticket you go and the audience and your experience, things like that, it is very kind of hard to, make a substantial living off low ticket, right? Without upsells and things like that. So
yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. I do love ads though. There is a side where, the audience is cool, but I do just love testing ads straight out the gate as much as possible. And because we haven't covered it much on the podcast, but I do really want to. You mentioned kind of affiliates, right? So walk us through kind of what you're learning and what your process has been with kind of onboarding affiliates, getting them kind of where to find them, how to pick the right ones, and those agreements. Assuming that people haven't even learned anything or done anything with affiliates yet.
Yeah, so a significant part of our business comes from affiliates. Again, it's 80-20. So we have I'd say a single digit number of affiliates who account for 80% of affiliate revenue. So we have hundreds of smaller affiliates who make very, very few sales, and then, fewer than 10 who make all of the sales. All of those people virtually have come through relationships. So these are people that I've known for years. Maybe I've met them at conferences. Maybe we're kind of internet friends. In most cases, I've known them for many, 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 many years. And so there's trust there. One of the reasons that they like working with us, aside from the fact that there's a good offer audience fit, so our stuff converts for them, that's obviously fun. Without that, you have nothing. But one of the reasons they like to work with us is that they can actually work with us. Often when you affiliate for larger companies, there's no customer service for you as the affiliate. You just promote their offer and that's it. Difficult to get answers. There's no relationship. We know these guys. We're friends with them. Right? We see them at conferences. We would, work on promotions together. And I think that's one of the reasons that the affiliate relationships themselves have lasted for so long. If I were doing this all over again, I would take exactly the same approach. I would prioritize relationships. And relationships are just they're so important for so many reasons. This is relationships with other people in your niche, right? Other audience owners, list owners in your niche. I would prioritize that by just building relationships as strong as I possibly could, going to industry conferences, supporting other people with no expectation of anything in return, to being that, cheerleader for other people and building those relationships over a period of years. And then making sure that you've got something that's damn good so that when they turn around and say, I think I'll affiliate for you this Black Friday, it actually converts and makes some money because then they'll come back for more. So I'm not the right person to ask really for how do you build an affiliate army. That's not what we've done. I think most likely for that to work, I think you do need quite a mass market product. And I think story learning in itself is not that. It's quite a bit more niche. And maybe that's why the affiliate dynamic is a bit more muted. We also never put any effort whatsoever into growing our affiliates, which is interesting. If we did, who knows what would happen?
Yeah, no, love it. That makes total sense. And I'm curious, obviously, whatever you're allowed to share, and what you can't, just tell us. But in terms of the students coming in and kind of any numbers you can speak about over the 10 years, I'm curious to see kind of what that kind of growth and trajectory looked like maybe in the first few years compared to now.
Yeah, well, for my first few years was just me blogging, so I didn't have any courses or anything. Yeah. I mean, I think I made my first course after 12 months. And then my second course after 24 months. So it was really, and then in years 3, 4, 5, I made a bunch of courses that were kind of just peripheral, not really, I didn't have a clear conception of the business at that point. It was only when I was 5, 6 years in, after the books, we had this publishing deal, the books had done really well. I started thinking more and more about the idea of stories and just noticing how powerful it was. We then kind of rebranded the entire business around story and it became story learning. And at that point, actually, so we're talking 5 years in, I actually made my first story learning course. That did really, really well. And then from there, it was just all systems go. And we spent 5 years building out, just over 100 courses, I think, probably by this point. So yeah, we've had tens of thousands of students. I couldn't tell you how many. It's not something we track directly. But generally, for most of us, if you looked at virtually any of our metrics, whether it's website traffic, students, course sale, it's one long, slow line up and to the right. It's there's absolutely no exponential growth. There's no hockey stick moment. There's no moment when we went viral. It's just 10 years of slow, steady growth all the way. The main thing that did compound actually was our revenue. In I'd say about 5 years ago or so halfway through the journey, that's when our revenue really, we went from 6 to 7 figures quite quickly. And that was that happened when I started bringing team on board. So when I got out of the way and started bringing on other people, that's when things went really, really fast because we were able to just produce a lot of products quickly, get a lot better at and systematize our content marketing. So that was probably one of the major kind of steps up. But then even then, if you were to look at the graph over a sort of 10-year view, it's very, 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 very slow and gradual. I mean, I'm involved in, I'm not allowed to say much about it at this stage, but I'm involved in another business at the moment that's very new. It's only a few months old, but we're already we're millions in annual run rates, millions of dollars in revenue annual run rate already. It is an AI-based product. And so it's capitalizing on a trend, on a very big trend that's using kind of market forces to, grow fast. I've never experienced that before. All the businesses I've ever done have been long, slow, steady
slow burns. Yeah.
growth.
Yeah.
But I'd rather have that, to be honest, because I know that it would take a lot to burn that down.
Mm-hmm.
Touch wood.
Yeah. Solid foundations.
But it's like the foundations are solid because we have so many traffic sources, so many products, so many affiliates, so much audience. It's strong and stable. And I'd rather have, have you ever read Company of One by Paul Graham? Not Paul Graham, sorry, Paul Jarvis. It's Paul Jarvis.
Oh, no.
Company of One. Anyway, I knew there was a Paul in there somewhere. It's Paul Jarvis.
Yeah.
He told the story of this Japanese traditional in Japan that has been in the same family since the year 1040 or something. So it's basically a millennium old, and it still exists. That same business. I want that kind of business. That's what I want. I want something that can just keep growing 20, 30% a year. Less would be fine, even over time, that I can continue to enjoy. I can pass down to my kids. I like those kind of businesses because, not to get too far off track, but one of my big beliefs about entrepreneurship is that in order to be happy and to enjoy the journey, we have to be fairly unattached to the outcome of that. So I think that people who chase rapid growth, who chase a sale, a big exit, whatever, are always living in the future, and that is ultimately not a recipe for happiness. I think we have to bring to be happy and content. We have to bring the business into the fold of our lives and have our life and our business coexist and run at the same time in as smooth and steady and stable a way as possible. And that's what allows you to actually enjoy your life and the things that are going on around you. So while it's kind of fun to be on this AI roller coaster, whatever, I'd rather just have a strong, stable business that keeps growing.
Love it. That makes a total sense. And even that idea of, long-term kind of, month to month ongoing fulfillment and not being fully burnt out or everything being hectic, that definitely, sounds good. Sounds good to me instead of things going hectic. So yeah, that was amazing. I guess finally, as we move towards wrapping up, I guess for any, aspiring course creators out there, existing course creators out there, after all your experience, everything you've tried, you've already given us a ton, but are there any kind of final words of wisdom or advice you would give to people on this journey to build something that, they love and kind of works for them?
You got to have something that's good. It has to be something unique. Now, everyone's heard that before. Those two things before, right? Two things, right? Your stuff has to work, it has to be good, and you have to have something unique. We've all heard this before. But a lot of people don't have this. And if you don't have that, you're fighting a permanent uphill battle. And it would be better to stop and go and find something that actually is those two things, something that is genuinely good and that is very unique. So, for example, with story learning, I'm kind of a career expert in this field. I know what I'm talking about. So the products are good. I can say that objectively hopefully without it coming across as bragging. I mean, it is good because I've spent, 20 years doing this stuff. I know what I'm doing, right? And it's unique because it's this angle of learn languages through stories is something that is not common. And people really gravitate towards that idea. For my newsletter business, the stuff that all I really do in that now is teach. I write newsletters about online business. It works because I spent 10 years building a multi-million-dollar business, more than one. And so I know what I'm talking about. And the stuff that I write in this, quote unquote product, the newsletter, is difficult to find anywhere else. It's like, it's not only based in grounded in experience, but it's very unique because most people who write about business don't actually know what they're talking about for a start. But even then, people who are very successful in business tend not to write newsletters about it. They want to do something else. So it's actually relatively difficult to get access to people who have built successful businesses. And so that, again, is the combination of something that works and something that's unique. I think for a lot of people, the difficulty is they haven't actually done anything that's very interesting. And if that's the case, then you've got to go out and learn that value for yourself in order to provide it for others. Everyone who's taking shortcuts, just building quick and simple courses because you can, like ultimately you're building a house of cards. So when I look back on my career, I do think I was lucky. Like when I got interested in learning languages, I had no idea that was going to be a monetizable skill 10 years later. I had no idea, right? But it just so happened it was. If I was talking, let's say that I was going to wind the clock back and I didn't like languages, what would I tell myself? I'd say, well, go and become an expert, a top 1% expert in one thing. It doesn't matter what it is. My first career was as a jazz musician. Another route for me, had I known it at the time, would have been, right, go just focus on becoming the best musician you can. And then if you want, you can then go and teach piano, which was my instrument, on YouTube, and then spend 5 years getting really good at it. There you go. But I know something and I can do something that other people want to learn, right? And so the kind of the prerequisite to all of this is like, be valuable. Learn something that you can genuinely teach people and that those people want to pay for. Like you've got to have that. And then once you've got that, make something good, make it different. And then you're in a good place.
Love it. Well, that was amazing, man. I think that's, advice that gets forgotten a little bit, especially in the e-learning space where it's all about kind of ads and revenue, but, being, exceptional, making sure that the product is incredible. The product can do, a lot of the selling for you and you build something bigger than itself. People come back and they tell their friends, as opposed to, a lot of online gurus, 6 months, 12 months, they sell a, shitty course that doesn't work. And then, they're back to square one versus you right now, 10 years down the line, you have a business that's running mostly without you, that's scaling really, really bigger than yourself. And, you have that solid foundation. So I think that amazing advice doesn't get passed around enough, but I really appreciate that.
Easy to say, not so easy to do. I fully accept
exactly,
that.
totally.
But that's the reality, right? That's why most businesses fail.
Yeah, exactly. Well, we've got to move towards wrapping up, Ollie, but I really appreciate you coming on, man. There was so many kind of wisdom and nuggets here that I need to kind of think deeply on. I'm sure the audience got a ton of value as well. If people want to learn more from you, tell us kind of where can we find you? How do people reach out?
Yeah, so best thing is to go to ollyrichards.co, OLLYRICHARDS.co. You can sign up for my newsletter, which I send out every week. Although not in December, because I'm taking December off. So you won't get anything in December. But what you will get is that case study I mentioned. It's 118 pages, and that explains how the whole business works. You can also find me on Twitter and YouTube. Just search for Olly Richards there. I'm releasing a lot of videos. I'm really enjoying YouTube for the business side of it at the moment. So I'm doing some stuff there. And if you want to just sort of do some spying on my language business, you can go to storylearning.com, and the opt into the email list. The world will unfold in front of your eyes.
Cool. Love it. All right, guys. Well, I'll leave links in the bios or the descriptions below. Check out Olly. Get on his newsletter. 118 pages. I'm sure it's going to blow your mind. I'm signing up right now. So, Olly, man, I appreciate you coming on. This was really, really amazing. So much gold here. Thank you very much, man.
Cool. Thanks very much. I enjoyed the chat. Cheers, man.